Are you just starting out shooting black and white film? Here's some common mistakes to try to avoid.
My name is Rob Skeoch, and I've been shooting film for over 50 years and working as a professional photographer for over 45 years for clients like Major League Baseball, the NFL, and I've been published in Sports Illustrated and National Geographic. Maybe some of these techniques I've learned will help you as you learn about film photography.
So let's dive right in. The first consideration is which film are you going to shoot? Now, there's a lot of great films out there. They're all fantastic, but some are a little weird to use, and I wouldn't start with those. So I would start with a very basic film. So if you think of Kodak in the 40s, they came out with a film called Tri-X. It's been updated many times. It's a very popular film still. I've heard photographers say it's the only film that fits in their camera. Now it came in ISO 400, but there was also a 320 version. The Pro version was actually 320. It had another coating on it so you could do pencil retouching on both sides. With the regular 400, if you were doing retouching, and no one does that anymore, but if you're doing retouching, you could only do it on one side. But professional retouchers wanted both sides. So there was a 400 and a 320. But we're talking about Tri-X 400. Now, so it came out in the 40s. Everybody used it. It was the standard film. It's still available. A lot of people think it's still the best film. No reason not to shoot Tri-X, but there's some other options as well. When Kodak came out with Tri-X, and that's what I started with, and we used to buy it in a roll of 100 feet, and you'd put it in a little box, light-proof box, and you'd wind off a roll of 30 exposures or 24 exposures or whatever you wanted. And that was the cheapest way to do it. And we had the cassettes. You would reuse them over and over again until they were dirty and scratched your film, and then you would throw them out and buy a new one. Or you could actually use the ones from the film that was rolled. You could reuse the cassettes back then. You can't now, but you could back then. So in the beginning, we were buying 100 feet rolls and bulk loading. I don't suggest it, but that's what we did. And then we started to shoot Tri-X, as a film at the newspaper. That was the basic film that we shot, Tri-X 400. So then Kodak came out with T-Max 400 in 1986. And the newspapers pretty well switched to the T-Max. The T-Max was a T grain structure. So the grain structure of the film was a little bit different than the regular granular look of the Tri-X. And Ilford had the regular granular look on their HP4, which became HP5, and then it became HP5 Plus. But that was the regular grain structure. And their T grain structure was in the family of film called the Delta. So Delta 100, Delta 400, and I think it was Delta 1600. So what would I suggest to someone just starting out? There's a lot of great films. Like I've got the Delta family. Nothing wrong with going there, but it wouldn't be where I would start. The T-Max family. So we've got T-Max 400, T-Max 100. Not a bad place to start with the 400. Not a bad choice. But I would probably go with the HP5. This would be where I would start, and I'm going to explain why. Now, there's a lot of other great films. Like I've got this SFX. I use this quite a bit. It's kind of an infrared range a little bit, and it's a great film, but it wouldn't be where I would start. It's a little bit sophisticated. I actually have Kodak's high-speed infrared. You can't even take it out of the canister. You have to load it in your camera in complete dark. It's a screwy film. I wouldn't start with that. I would start with a very basic film, and I would probably start with Ilford's HP5. So one of the things that you're going to do with your film, for instance, this is HP5, which is ISO 400. That's the box speed. That's like saying, I bought a car gets 40 miles to the gallon. Yes, it does in a lab under perfect conditions. It gets 40 miles to the gallon. But when you take it home, it doesn't. HP5, the box speed is 400, and it is 400 in the lab. But for day-to-day shooting, you'll get better results. This is a mistake to avoid. Why don't you set your camera exposure meter to 200 ISO. We can tweak it down the road another day, but shoot it at 200 instead of 400. And ISO is a funny thing. On my digital camera, the native speed is ISO 800, which is twice as fast as the box speed. But I wouldn't hesitate to go to an outdoor game and shoot at ISO 4000 or 8000 just to get the shutter speed up, to 4,000th of a second or 8,000th of a second. And there's clouds coming in and out, so I would put that ISO way up. It doesn't seem to ruin the digital files that much. So on film, there's no ISO 4000, and you can't adjust it mid-roll. If you're putting it in your camera and it's a 400 box speed and you're going to go 200, you can't change mid-roll because it's not going to work out when you process it. So take the box speed, cut it in half. That's a great place to start. Now, another thing that I would do is I would buy shorter rolls. The roll of film is 36 exposures. I wouldn't buy that. I'd buy 20 or 24, whatever the shorter roll is. It just allows you to get the film in the lab a little bit sooner, look at the results, make some tweaks, make some changes, and then go back out and shoot. So I think people make a mistake because they buy rolls of 36. Why don't you buy a roll of 24 to start off with and get HP5, Tri-X, T-Max 400. Those are great starting points. Now, there is another film that the store might recommend, Ilford XP2, and it's really a color film that produces a black and white file, black and white image. I would stay away from that when you're starting off. It's very convenient because you can get it processed at the color lab. However, it doesn't really have that black and white look that you're looking for with the grain structure. So yes, it's convenient. Yes, it's a black and white image, but it's not. If you want to start shooting black and white film and have that black and white film look, you're not going to get it on XP2. Great film. I just would stay clear. I would buy HP5 or Tri-X or T-Max 400. So there's a great photographer, Cartier-Bresson, and he has this famous quote, your first 10,000 pictures are your worst. And he's not talking about digital pictures where I went out this weekend and I shot 4,000 pictures. He's talking about film. So your first 10,000 pictures are your worst. That's 250 rolls of film. That's like 400 rolls if you're shooting 24 exposure. So it's going to take a little while to learn how to shoot black and white. Don't expect great results because you've already shot 3 or 4 rolls. You know, shoot 200 or 300 and then start to kind of look for great results. It's going to take a little bit of learning to get this figured out. Let's be honest. Now, another mistake I see with a lot with people shooting black and white, it always drives me nuts no matter what the picture is. If the sky's in the picture, you need a filter. That's just if the sky's in the picture? Yeah, kind of. Because the white cloud, so you've got this scene, it's a blue sky with white clouds, and it looks fantastic, and the clouds are magnificent. Great. When you shoot that in black and white, the clouds are going to be white, and the sky is also going to be white. So in your picture, it's all white. You can't see the great definition of these majestic clouds. So if you use a filter on your lens when you take it, it will darken the sky. The white clouds are still white clouds, but in the final print, the sky will be darker and you'll see the definition so much better. Think of Ansel Adams with those classic pictures with those white clouds. He used a filter. Now, filters come in different colors. This is yellow, and that's one that's recommended, but that's not the one I recommend. This will darken the sky a little bit. What you really need is orange. Now, technically this is called deep yellow, but it looks orange, so let's call it orange. And this is a B+W 040 orange filter. Now, you don't have to buy B+W, they're expensive. Any brand will do a great job for you, but you're looking for orange or deep yellow. So we've got yellow, orange. There's also red and deep red and some other colors too. Red will darken the sky too much and kind of brings in some other problems because of the red filtration. So let's start with an orange. Just buy one filter. Buy an orange filter. Now it's going to use up about 2 stops of light. So if you were shooting at a 60th of a second, you're now shooting at a 15th of a second. So it is sucking up some light. So just remember that. But you're going to want an orange filter. Darken the sky if there's sky in your photo. If there's no sky in your photo, then it doesn't matter. You don't need the filter at all. Now, another problem I see is people don't actually load their camera properly. Everybody who shoots film has gone out for the whole day taking pictures and the camera wasn't loaded or wasn't loaded properly. So there is a couple of things that I would suggest. First off, when you load the camera, put the tab in, get it engaged with the gears on both sides. Now, some cameras have a quick load. I understand that. But generally, I like to see both gears engaged. And then you can close the back. And you can also wind back a bit and put a little tension on here so that when you wind it, you're seeing this turn. And this turning is indicating that, yes, it's loaded and I'm pulling film through. Now, the other way to load it is to put it in this side first. Close that down, and pull it across. Now there were cameras, I know Canon had like a quick load system where you would just drag it across to about there and then close the back and it would start and it would load up fine. With the cameras that I use, I always like to see it to this point. I like to see both gears engaged before I close. And then of course you have to fire off a couple of shots because you fogged that part, and now you're off to the races. And you can watch that this wheel, that your crank is turning, so that you know that the film is pulling through. And a funny thing about the rewind, when we used to shoot film and we'd have a remote camera and your remote camera was over there, you couldn't really see if it was turning, and you couldn't really see if it wasn't turning, which meant maybe you were out of film. So people used to glue a little, think of it like a little toy soldier. They would glue a little toy soldier on here, and then as the film advanced, the soldier would spin, and you could look over and see, yes, my remote camera is working because the soldier is still spinning when I fire it. Or it's not working because maybe I'm out of film and the soldier is not spinning anymore. So that was a long time ago. I don't think you'd have to do that anymore. No one's shooting film with remotes. So how do you avoid the common mistakes in shooting black and white? Buy a common film, HP5 Plus, great choice by Ilford, Kodak T-Max, Kodak Tri-X. Those are a great starting point. Take the box speed, cut it in half, so instead of 400, we're at 200. Get that orange filter. Hopefully your lenses all have the same filter size, so you just need to buy that one orange filter. Darken the sky. If the clouds are in it, you'll see them. They'll look fantastic. But the key to getting great black and white pictures is to go out and shoot 200, 300, 400 rolls. Learn how to do it. There's no tricks of the trade. Learn the actual way to do it. You'll get great results. Your pictures will look like Ansel Adams. You'll have that magnificent sky, those beautiful clouds, Yosemite Park glowing in the sun. Learn how to shoot the black and white, and the best way to do it is to get started, buy a roll, shoot it, look at the results.